2, 3, Morton. Yep, let's go. 1, 2, 3. So, welcome to London, it's 1919, and we're going to spend the next half hour looking at some of the very best jazz bands to come and ply their trade within the shadow of Big Ben's chimes, shortly after the cessation of hostilities in 1918. That was, of course, the incredible and legendary Satanic Blues performed by the original Dixieland jazz band, who came over soon after the war had finished. I mean, what more is there to say about the original Dixieland jazz band, other than, of course, to distance oneself from the lamentable and frankly disgraceful views of Nick LaRocca, but we won't go into that. Still like the music. Of course, by this point, the ODJB were shorn of 2 of their original 5 members because Poor Henry Ragas had succumbed to the so-called Spanish flu epidemic in 1918, I think, and Eddie Edwards was still stuck in the US Army waiting to be demobilised. So in their place we have a former Broadway song plugger in the form of J. Russell Robinson. We've heard Morten Gunnar Larsen doing the lovely piano work. And in the place of Eddie Edwards, we've got a former New Orleans cornetist, Emile Christian. And we've got the amazing, all the way from New Orleans, Charlie Halloran doing the fantastic job. Some of you who were here in 2022 may remember that I did a set called After the Storm, Jazz in Paris, in the same sort of era, just after World War I. This is, if you like, a kind of companion piece. And for those of you who like this sort of thing, hopefully this is the sort of thing you'll like. Crusty early jazz is my spirit music. I'm sure there are some kindred spirits out there. What else is there to say? We're going to go forward a year now to 1921 to hear perhaps my fatal character flaw and one of my favourite musical ensembles of all time. Yes, they're making a triumphant return to Whitley Bay, having left it and last been heard here in 1916, the Versatile Four. So we're going to need Martin Whitley to come and play the banjoline. First banjoline we've heard at this festival, I think. So this is a window into what was going on in London before the ODJB arrived, because they've been resident in London since about 1915, playing kind of jazz-adjacent music. Swung ragtime with improvised elements. So it's so close to being jazz that it almost could be defined as, but perhaps not quite. And by this point, in order to try and stay relevant, the former banjoline player, Gus Haston, has learned the C melody saxophone. And as C melody saxophonists go, he was a really great banjo player. So I've asked Michael to pretend that he only learned the C melody saxophone in the last 6 months or so, with predictable results. You want to swap it? I'd love to hear that, maybe not now. This tune was never recorded by anybody else, I don't think, so probably their own composition. This one is called Bo Bo Beat Lumbo. I'm sorry, I'm just going to turn my phone off because I don't know why that's going off, sorry. Right, Bo Bo Beat Lumbo, here we go. 1921. One, two, three. How about Martin Whitley there on the banjoline? I was so thrilled to have him on this set. I mean, there are a few other people in the world who can do that stuff, but not with the same panache and gentlemanly elan that Martin does. So it's a treasure to have him here. And how about Michael McQuaid on the C melody saxophone? Inaudible. Of limited interest as jazz. Now we're going to move on to a band we met in Paris 2 years ago. Yes, here comes Richard Exel, hooray! A band we met 2 years ago, but this is actually, we're hearing them in an earlier incarnation. So this is Billy Arnold's Novelty Jazz Band. Originally from, where were they from? Paterson, New Jersey. They found it going a bit hard in London when they first arrived and recalled that folks used to stare and gape at us as though we were exhibits in a zoo. Geez, that's kind of what you're all doing. But at this point in 1920, they're resident at the Hammersmith Palais, very upmarket venue in West London, and recording for Columbia. We're going to play a spirited one-step with some excellent tailgate trombone by one Billy Trittle. And if I know a man who can do tailgate trombone, it's Charlie Halloran. Where's Billy Trittle? Yeah, sadly, probably not around anymore. Okay, this is called Stop It. 14th of October 1920, so almost exactly 104 years ago-ish. Is that right? I have number dyslexia, so I'm really not the person to be doing this. So when we go back to letter C after the and then we take the okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The guys, goodness me. And we heard Richard Exel there playing a beautiful alto sax lead at one point. Hey, Richard, wonderful. So honoured and grateful to be allowed to play this music here with these amazing musicians. I know everyone goes on and on about what an honour and a pleasure it is, but you know, where else could you do this stuff? Who wants to hear bands with this, these sort of nutty lineups and strange songs that haven't stood the test of time? Still, I love them. We're going to move on now and listen to, okay. I've got a story to remember here. I was just out there looking at the record stall. Is Mark in here? Mark Beresford, over there. And he said, what are you going to be doing in the After the Armistice set? And I told him some of the bands. He said, oh, I've got a good story about that. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. I've got to remember the facts of it. And I've got to credit Mark for as being my source. This next band is Art Hickman's New York London 5. I'm sure you've all heard of Art Hickman, great West Coast band leader in San Francisco in America. Oh, Michael's off. We'll see you later. For the frenzy finale. Yeah, Art Hickman's New York London 5. There was a band that came over to London under the name of Art Hickman, but in fact had nothing to do with him whatsoever. What they were a bunch of enterprising musicians, I think organised by Yerkes, who decided to pay, a very clever idea, to pay Art Hickman for the rights to use his name to publicise their gigs, even though they had literally nothing whatsoever to do with them. He, of course, I'm sure, was thrilled with this arrangement. So they came over to London, stayed about a year, and then the alto saxophone player, whose name was Jack Howard, realised, hang on a minute, this is daft. We've been here for about a year. We're paying this guy, Art Hickman, back in San Francisco all this money. Why don't we find another Art Hickman in London and just pay him instead? We can still carry on using the name. So apparently they looked in the phone directory and found some guy in like Hammersmith who was a painter and decorator. Arthur Hickman. Can we just use your name? We'll pay you £5. Yeah, sure. So they could carry on doing this for free. I'm sure the real Art Hickman was not at all pleased about this. So, great story, Mark, thank you. If you haven't been over to check out Mark's stall, highly recommend it. Although I'm not sure he's got any Art Hickman's New York London 5. I actually found some of this stuff on 78. A few years ago we went to Paris with the Vitality 5, this is back before COVID-19, with Michael and Andrew and Curtis and David. And we were looking in the Phono Gallery. Anyone been there? There's an amazing museum with all these old gramophones and stuff. And they also have some racks of 78s that you can buy. And I found this treasure trove of early American bands in London. So there's like, yeah, one that we're going to get onto next, which I won't mention yet, but I'm sure you can probably guess, and some Art Hickman and some, I didn't find any Billy Arnold, but anyway, there's lots of good stuff. Versatile 4. So yeah, most of this stuff I don't manage to ever find on 78. This stuff I did, so I'm very pleased to be playing it live finally. So this band were resident at the Criterion restaurant, which is again still there, you can go and visit it. And they played it on the roof gardens of the Criterion restaurant. In fact, once got in a fist fight with the band from the Cecil Hotel. I don't know why, but they did. And they recorded for HMV. This is from 1921, the 15th of March 1921. And it's going to feature Jack Howard in the form of Richard Exall, playing a beautiful sort of mellifluous alto saxophone lead. And this is a slightly more restrained kind of dance band, light kind of a version of the song. This one's called Now and Then. Off we go. I think I can do this in a bit quicker than the rehearsal, so we'll just like that. So Morton's got two, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, now we're going to call up Emma and Michael once again, and Martin once again. Right, all changed. You guys might as well stay there for this space. So we're now going to move over to Rector's, which is one of the venues that the original Dixieland jazz band sort of passed through, but now taken over from them as a unit sextet from the University of Nebraska, the Southern Ragga Jazz Band. Yeah, anyone like them? Yeah, 2 people. So here we have. Okay, check this. You thought Banjoline and C Melody was weird, right? Here we have a band with a front line of violin, soprano sax, and trombone, but playing ssort of ODJB-ish type music. Weird. There's some great names in this band. The banjo player is called Donville Fairchild, and the piano player was called Galen Grubb. And we should also mention, Michael, you're playing your 3rd instrument so far, right?
Yes.
In this very short set. Harold Peterson, who was one of 5 soprano sax soloists who were active on the London scene at this time. The other ones being Henry Arnold from Billy Arnold's band, Roscoe Burnett from the Red Devils, Sidney Bechet, and Bert Ralton, who was in the Savoy Havana band. If you're interested in him, go out and come back 2 years ago and you could hear the Savoy Havana band set. It was all about Bert Ralton. Also, we should mention here before we play this, there were several other important bands on the scene that if you were living in London rather than just collecting records a century later, you would think were important, but because we haven't got any of their records, we can't know what they sounded like. They included, and I'm going to mention them because they're important, the Southern Syncopated Orchestra, which was the band that Bechet came over with, the Rag Pickers, the Red Devils, and Benny Payton's Jazz Kings. None of these guys had any records issued, although some of them did make sessions, which is so frustrating. So rather than trying to imagine what those might have sounded like, I thought it's just best to leave them alone. But it's worth mentioning them because they were, I'm sure, great bands as well. Okay, so this is, the Southern Ragga Jazz Band. I couldn't resist. I know it's going to be a marathon for Michael. He literally doesn't get any rest, and is it a 5-pager, that one?
Yeah.
5 pages of soprano sax. And how many revving motorbikes? 3?
Total.
Several points I've
and
written.
counting.
3 and counting. And Emma's going to do some wonderful 1-finger scrapey violin on the top. This is a tune I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, the Tiger Rag. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. welcome the crowd, everybody. Chef Chris. If you find another jazz festival where you can hear somebody doing that, come and let me know, because I can't think of it. Okay, we're rapidly approaching the end, folks. Everybody's up on stage now, so we're just getting towards 1923. Very soon Paul Whitman will be arriving, and the pattern will be set for Britain for the rest of the decade, where it's just pretty much dance bands and nothing else. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I like them too, but the small group of jazz band does seem to pretty much disappear for a little while. So, it's a shame we... Oh, Emma's off! Emma Fisco, everybody! Thanks so much, that's really wonderful. I forgot to do this. She's carrying on a noble tradition of me forgetting to announce. That's an in-joke from 2 years ago. Right. What was I going to say? Yeah, if you stand on the corner of Haymarket, I'll just say this very quickly, you can see 5 or 6 in this small, like, 2-block area, right in the middle of London's nightlife. You can see 5 or 6 important jazz venues from the early 20s and late 10s where important bands played. There's the Criterion Restaurant where Art Hickman's band played. There's the Kit Kat Club, which of course is the Kit Kat band. The Café de Paris, where Teddy Brown and various other people played. And the Lions Corner House, where this last band we're going to play played. The Georgians, Paul Speck's Georgians. And of course, if you look the other way, just down Piccadilly, there's the Piccadilly Hotel. Never heard of it. That's a callback to yesterday. Yeah, so we're going to do the Georgians. The Paul Speck's orchestra came and went several times during the 20s. And in fact, we've got a letter that he wrote to the band slightly later on, actually, than the Georgians. So it's cheating a bit, but I thought it was so nice, it's nice to include it. Telling them how he wanted them to behave when they came to Britain. I tried reading it out in an American accent in my room and it sounded awful, so I'm going to get a real American to do it, Mike Spring to do it. So this is Paul Speck to his band, telling them how to behave in London.
A request for your full cooperation about our venture into England. Roughhouse yelling and carrying on will not be tolerated by any English managers, nor the English public. You will be a credit to American musical standards if you always play your best, if you always dress your best, if you always act your gentlemanly best, if you visit the barber regularly, and keep your shoes shined. Paul L. Speck, April 20th, 1926.
I should say, I don't think I've actually announced Mike yet. He's one of the finest Nick LaRocca impersonators, not views-wise, but just on it play. And he's been doing a sterling job on everything else. The wonderful Mike Davis, everybody. Okay, so here we go. This is the Georgians. It's a bit of a tradition for me to end on an exotic foxtrot, so we're going to play a tune written the previous year, the year that King Tutankhamun was dug up. This is Old King Tut. Okay. Whoa! That's a surprise. That was them opening the... Right, off we go.